And welcome back to Cheeky Crypto. Today, guys, we're going to be jumping into 5 altcoins that are actually, I think, going to perform incredibly well in the next bull market. These are 5 altcoins that are representing layer 1s. If you find this kind of content useful and informative, smash that like button. I do appreciate that. If you are new to the YouTube channel, why not subscribe, tapping the bell, selecting all the notifications so you do not miss another video. If you're watching this on Twitter, give us a follow and make sure you give us a retweet. Really do appreciate that. Help spread the content to more like-minded individuals. Let's go ahead and waste no more time though. Let's jump right down into these 5 altcoins, starting things off with altcoin number 1. Altcoin number 1, guys, is Avalanche. Now, Avalanche as a layer 1 and their Snow protocols are incredibly interesting. I think this is a particular layer 1, or as a layer 1, I think is going to do incredibly well over the coming years. Now, it has seen some volatility. It has seen its fair share of FUD, as well as many of these other layer 1s that I'm going to be talking about today as well. Ultimately, though, I do think that Avalanche has a pretty strong chance of success in the future, and it's one of those protocols that I think you have to dive right down into that white paper to truly understand and appreciate. There's many reasons why AVAX kind of stands out from the crowd, but I'm not going to go into too much of the fundamental side in this particular video. Just want to highlight some of the key points. As we can see at the point of recording this video, its current price is $12.23. It has a market cap of $4.2 billion and is ranked 19th if you actually just rank it by market cap. The trading volume right now is actually on the lower side. It's ranked 34 for trading volume in the last 24 hours at $74 million. This is interesting because when we see disparities between the market cap rank and the trading volume rank, helps you understand whether or not actually people are that interested. At the moment, we've seen some pretty significant moves to the downside on AVAX, and I don't think we're necessarily done just yet. I do suspect we're likely to see a bit more, but for the most part, these cheaper prices on AVAX do mean a nice juicy return for the future, in my opinion. Ultimately, we can see that the circulating supply is hovering around the 343 million. This is out of a maximum 720 million tokens. So for the most part, we're actually not too bad, and it's interesting to kind of see that there are projects out there that are less than 1 billion in tokens, and AVAX is one of those. I do think we've got a pretty bright future here, and I think we're going to be experiencing some interesting protocols being built on the ecosystem. Which brings me over into the liquidity aspect, or total value locked aspect of Avalanche. We can actually see that the total value locked for AVAX sits at 597 million. This is actually pretty significant, even though it's down from its highs back into 2022 and 2021 here. We can see that we were hovering around 11.4 billion. So you can see that during the bullish markets, things really do start ramping up quite massively when it comes to total value locked, and through DeFi and various other things going on the ecosystem. Right now, a lot of money has been sucked out of the market overall. Obviously, market cap has come down quite dramatically for total crypto level, and AVAX is no exception. It's not underperforming against its competitors or anything like that, but nonetheless, we do see some interesting stats. If we go ahead and zoom in on 2023 here, we can see that actually it's been pretty stable for quite some time. So this is showing us that actually a $597 million of total value locked, or liquidity that's kind of locked up there, is actually pretty reasonable. And we can obviously take a look at this across the platforms as well. We can see there's lots of red and green in places, but for the most part, I think that this is actually a pretty reasonable protocol. It's got a really good technology on the kind of the tech side of things. If you jump down into that white paper, you'll understand what I'm talking about a bit more. And we can see that in a bullish market, it really does get some volume behind it, and it gets a lot of traction. So for me, I think Avalanche really does stand out as a layer 1 that I think is going to perform incredibly well. This means that we can move on into project number 2, and this is not one of my personal favorites, but it's hard not to include it in the list. That is going to be Solana. Now, Solana, I know, has a lot of people around it. It's got a big community. Back in 2021, I wasn't a big fan, mainly because it has so much VC, capital kind of deployed in there, that essentially it was just a recipe for a big move to the downside. I was invested in Solana in the early days, and I was able to get out at about $189, which right now it is looking pretty decent and not too bad. It went up a little bit higher than that. I was okay with that. But for the most part, profits were taken as per bull market kind of territory and as part of my strategy. And, for the most part, it's come down quite nicely since. We were able to take advantage of the FTX saga, where we saw significant downfall on Solana and Sol token. This was because we could see the FTX was about to collapse, and there was a lot of Solana associated things with FTX. And essentially, we could see that there was going to be a move to the downside. As such, we were able to capitalize in on those moves down. So we were able to short not only just FTT, but also Solana as well. Taking a look at the stats here for Solana, we can see that we are ranked 9th at the point of recording this video at a price of 24.7, market cap being $10 billion. Market cap being the price multiplied by the circulating supply being 406 million SOL tokens. Now, there is no maximum supply, and this is a big red flag for the future, in my opinion. When you haven't got a hard cap like that, you can continue to just print tokens over time, and with no hard cap, it is a potential issue on Solana. That being said, right now the supply is reasonably low. It's below the 1 billion, and which does beat many of these other protocols out of the water as well. But I am concerned over the fact that there is no maximum, at least not listed here on CoinMarketCap. Now, as I said, it's not one of my personal favorites. It's not one I've dived down deep into the fundamental side of it or anything like that. I know it's got a big community behind it, and specifically around the NFT side of things, but it has seen some turbulence recently. Ultimately, though, I do think we got pretty decent value here to be had. Price is down nice and low, and I can see pretty good growth potential in this one in the future as a layer 1. So it's one of those. I'm not a big personal fan of it, but it's hard to dispute the facts, which when we take a look at the total value locked, sits at $324 million. Ultimately, this was sat up higher in 2021 in the same way that AVAX was, hovering around the 10 billion. Now, we know that the Avalanche figure was actually sat higher during 2021 than Solana, and Solana was spoken about and pushed heavily by many of these VC capitalists over the 2021 bull market. I suspect there's going to be similar things going on, but maybe they'll have a focus on other projects that they've been buying into during the bear market. Ultimately, though, I think Solana will perform well, and we'll see a pretty decent return in the future. You can obviously go into this into a lot more detail as to kind of whether or not there's going to be a significant surge to the upside in terms of total value locked. Currently, at the point of recording, obviously we are here at $324 million, and you can see how this is spread across some of the protocols that are built on Solana. Okay, so that's altcoin number 2 as a second one. That's not my personal favorite, but it's hard to dispute. It does sit there in altcoin number 2. So let's go ahead and move over into altcoin number 3, which would be none other than Cardano. Now, you guys know that I'm a big fan of Cardano. I hold a lot of ADA, have done since 2020, and it's performed incredibly well, even though it has a lot of FUD out there and lots of noise and lots of things that just simply are not true. Actually, if you dig into this one, it's actually a very good protocol being built for the future. Ultimately, I really like it. We can take a look and see the all-time high. We're down massively from that all-time high, sub 30 cent at the point of recording this video, 28.83. Obviously, we had most recently hit a bear market low, I think in June of 2023. And I suspect we still got to go down deeper. That being said, the market cap at the point of recording is 10 billion, which is basically price multiplied by the 35 billion tokens. Now, obviously, this is the first one of the altcoins that we spoke about today that has over the 1 billion supply. This actually has 35 billion. So price is not going to be going up significantly unless you can see controlled measures and shrinkage of that supply. Ultimately, though, we do see and have a hard cap of the maximum at 45 billion, unlike Solana that can continue to print. In theory, Solana could have 100 billion, 100 trillion. It could have a quadrillion tokens in the future for all we know, right? Ultimately, it's good to see that there's a maximum supply. And really, that's where Cardano sits in here, along with AVAX, basically having a nice concrete base to be working from. There's a upper limit to this. Now, ultimately, with a limit in the number of tokens, it basically does give us a recipe for future price potential. We've spoken about this numerous times on the channel. I'm not going to be jumping into how high I think the price is going to go. You can check out my recent video on ADA for that one if you wanted to. Ultimately, though, we can see the great amount of total value locked in how it is growing. At the moment, we sit at $177 million. Now, when it comes to ADA, one of the things that we need to consider, and the same for Solana, is when we review this in terms of the 𝗕𝗂 that is being locked up. 𝗕𝗂 versus the dollar value of 𝗕𝗂 being locked up. As we take a look at it from a dollar value point of view, it doesn't look like there's a massive movements to the upside to be had, right? However, when we take a look at it from an 𝗕𝗂 point of view, we can see that there's an exponential growth in the amount of 𝗕𝗂 that is being locked up in terms of total value. So this basically is indicating 609 million 𝗕𝗂 has been locked up recently, and you can see the growth potential since 2023 has begun, 177 million. To put this into context, we can take a look at Solana, and we can take a look at how much Solana has been staked or how much Solana has been locked up. In comparison here, it really doesn't come anywhere near the same kind of level. So it's interesting to see when we take a look at Cardano here that actually things are building up and bubbling quite nicely for the potential future. So I have ranked these in terms of the total value locked from a DeFi point of view per layer 1, and Cardano sits in the 3rd spot. So I think that's quite, rightfully deserved. Now I'm going to move on to altcoin number 4. Now altcoin number 4 is one that I really do like, but not many people actually tend to talk about. And that's Near Protocol. Near Protocol as a layer 1, I think, can perform incredibly well. It's been busy building things out. It's got a pretty decent community behind it, but it isn't one that a lot of people kind of articulate or talk about or promote and kind of, really kind of get involved in. And I don't really fully understand why. I guess it's the same as AVAX to a point. Ultimately, though, we can see that the price at the point of recording is $1.33. We have $1.2 billion market cap, currently sat at rank number 39. Trading volume is significantly lower than that from the ranking point of view, is ranked 75 with $37 million in the last 24 hours. The circulating supply is 941 million near, and the total supply is being 1 million near. 1 billion near. Now, like we saw with Solana, there is no maximum number indicated here. But unlike Solana, if we come over to the Solana page, it shows as an infinite number, as in it could be an infinite maximum supply. Yet for our Near protocol, we can see it's just not submitted. There's no data for it. This is significantly different than saying that we have an unlimited maximum supply you can continue to mint. This way, there is actually no data available on CoinMarketCap to say it has or hasn't got a hard cap to it. So at this point, I do not know the answer to that one. It's one of those we'll have to take offline, research. Maybe someone in the comments knows, and they can drop that down below as to whether or not there is a hard cap on this one, yes or no. Ultimately, we'll run it as it is, looking like no hard cap. Okay, we have a decent supply out there at the moment, though, so we have to be a little bit cautious when it comes to understanding that, there's potentially no upper limit to how many tokens could be minted. Now, when we take a look at this across the all kind of time here, we can see that good all-time high that was had back in 2022. Actually January of 2022, and we can see that we did pull back quite aggressively, and we're right into a pretty nice spot here for good value. We can see that the all-time high did sit up there at $20, and we are now at $1.33 at the point of recording. Now, when we come over into the total value locked on Near, it sits at 34 million, which is incredibly low. We can see that during that bullish market, we've got up to 481, but I would note that actually things have been building out quite nicely ever since then, and actually a lot of building work has happened. So I think the future could potentially be quite bright for this particular layer 1, where we see good growth potential in the future for Near. And of course, like any other layer 1, we have to also look at what's being built on there. Are there layer 2s that we could also maybe jump on? And there's a few that stand out as well. Let's go ahead though and jump on over into the final altcoin. This one might shock and surprise many people because, believe it or not, yes, VeChain is a layer 1, at least at the moment. Whether or not they have plans to change this, I do not know, but it's one of those things where it's very unknown that actually VeChain is a layer 1 built with Solidity language, has lots of tooling on it, very much like Ethereum. However, it has a dual gas token approach, as in we have V4, which is the gas token, and VET as the currency token, and that obviously makes it very predictable for businesses. It's been well known as a supply chain protocol, and not many people really look at it as a layer 1, but it is in fact a layer 1. Now, I would jump into some of the other metrics in terms of total value value locked on the VeChain. However, there is only $1 million of total value locked when it comes to VET, and that's because it only really has just launched its stablecoin. It hasn't really entered into the world of DeFi or anything like that just yet. And so for potential here for the future, I do think we're going to see some pretty significant gains like we saw back in 2021 when it comes to the VET token. I'm not too much concerned over the V4 price action because there are metrics and levers that can be pulled within the protocol layer itself that allows the gas fee to change. And what I mean by this is if the price of V4 doubles, they could halve the amount of V4 that's needed for transaction fees, meaning that actually there's less demand. So we have to bear in mind that V4 is probably not a great tool to be speculating on, and not a great cryptocurrency to be speculating on. And actually we should probably focus on the currency element, which is VET. Now you can stake and delegate VET, or not stake and delegate, but by holding VET in a Sync2 wallet, for example, you actually earn V4 tokens as well. So you can earn the gas token by holding VET, something else to bear in mind. Now, we can see here the price at the point of recording sits at 1.8 cent. We have a market cap of 1.3 billion sitting at rank 38. The trading volume is actually significantly lower than that, ranked 92 in the last 24 hours with $26 million of trading volume. The circulating supply sits at a whopping 72 billion. And of course, our total supply and maximum supply sit at around 85 billion. Ultimately, the supply is much higher than many of these other layer ones that we've been talking about. And that's a bit of a contention, I guess, for many investors that look at this as a potential investment choice. Ultimately, the supply is something that is going to be something that we have to consider when it comes to supply and demand metrics and what drives price. And a high supply is going to basically mean there's always going to be a low price for VeChain. That being said, though, we can see some pretty decent growth potential in this one across the years. And I do think we're going to see a pretty nice run in the next bull run when it comes to VeChain. So guys, what do you think of my 5 altcoin picks for layer ones? What would you do? What would you change when it comes to these 5 altcoins? Would you have something else? Would you replace VeChain? Would you replace 𝗕? Let me know what your thoughts are on these 5 in the comments down below. If you found this useful and informative, smash that like button. I do appreciate that. If you are new to the channel, why not go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, select all the notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. And if you haven't yet joined us in Discord, what you're waiting for, check it out, linked in the description below. Until the next one though, guys, have a fantastic day.